You finally landed an interview in this brutal job market, but the clock is already ticking. Most candidates lose their job offer within the first 120 seconds. You think you're just introducing yourselves, but in reality, you're being filtered out before the real conversation even starts. With just one answer, your chances are gone. Average applicants bore the room by summarizing their resume. Top-tier candidates use a strategic storytelling formula to command the room. Today, I'm breaking down the 3-step magic formula that forces the hiring manager to pay attention and makes you the only logical choice. Let's be honest. If you answer, "Tell me about yourself," with a chronological play-by-play, "In 2015, I did my bachelor's, then I started my master's, then I started working at this and this company," you are making 3 critical mistakes. First, you are boring the interviewers. You're making them do the work of finding what's interesting about you, and they will lose attention fast. Second, you don't stand out. Every candidate is giving pretty much the same timeline as you. Third, and most importantly, you're showing that you cannot tell a story. You're proving that you cannot filter the noise and find what actually matters. In 2026, being a great communicator and knowing how to structure your answer matters more than ever. This first impression sets the tone for the rest of the interview. Instead, you need storytelling. Humans are neurologically wired for stories. When we hear a well-told narrative, our brains release oxytocin, the feel-good hormone that builds empathy and trust. To do this, we use a framework that's called the hero's journey. Most great stories follow this formula. There's a hero that is undergoing a challenge. They're having a transformative moment, and they come out on the other side as a result of it. Think about Cinderella. She's the hero, or the main character. Her challenge is that she lives under her stepmom's thumb as a servant, and she really wants to attend the royal ball. Her transformation happens through magical help to attend a ball in a beautiful dress with beautiful shoes. And the result? She marries a prince and becomes royalty herself. Now, you're not going to talk about Cinderella, although this would also be quite memorable. But instead, you're going to use this exact same structure to talk about your professional life. Here's the 3-step framework to make you unforgettable. As a foundation, you need to establish the hero. Don't just start with your job title, but start with your professional spark. Why are you obsessed with this field? It should be a short, personal truth that connects your personality to the job. If you're a developer, maybe it's your obsession with solving puzzles. If you're in HR, maybe you've always been fascinated by people dynamics. This makes you human and immediately builds this oxytocin-driven trust. Now, step 1, the challenge. Start with the problem. This is where you introduce the hero, so yourself, in a conflict context. Every job in one way or another exists to solve a certain problem. By starting like this, you immediately establish yourself as a problem solver. Describe a moment where the stakes were high, resources were low, or the path forward was unclear. This creates immediate tension and hooks the interviewer's curiosity. Step number 2, the transformation. This is the how. It's the bridge between the challenge and the result. In this step, you describe the specific action you took, and more importantly, how you changed or what you've learned because of it. Did you have to master a new technology within a week, or did you have to learn how to lead a team through a crisis? Step 3, the result. Finally, you deliver the payoff. You're releasing the tension that you have built with your story. What was the concrete outcome? You aren't just a candidate with experience. You are a person that has been tested and came out the other end with a superpower that this company needs. You share the concrete result, and then you do something that most candidates don't do. You turn that result into a system. You explain that the success of this project wasn't just a one-time lucky thing. It became your blueprint, the way you now approach every problem. Finally, you bring it all together by showing how your specific experience is the only logical solution to the company's current challenges. Example number 1. Let's say you're a project manager. Here's what I would say when they ask me, "Tell me about yourself." So a bit about myself. I've always been that person who's been pathologically organized. Even as a teenager, I was the one who would map out the most efficient route on trips with my friends. So 5 years ago, I got into project management because I've always been driven to close the gap between a great idea and actually reaching your destination. And I realized early on that even in companies, many ideas fail because people don't follow through on something. That obsession with the gap was put to the test when, after only 1 year as a management trainee at a global bank, I was asked to lead a $3 million investment project. I was 24 years old, stepping into a room with board members who had been in finance longer than I'd been alive, and I was responsible for leading the bank's number 2 priority for the entire year. I then realized very quickly that no amount of project tools or spreadsheets could save a project if the stakeholders didn't play along. I had to transform from a task tracker to a room reader. I learned that project management isn't about software or reporting, it's about psychology, it's about people. 1 year later, the app launched as the #1 investment app in the German market. But more importantly, I walked away with a repeatable framework and understanding of navigating corporate complexity. I've spent the last years applying that same human-first logic to various industries and consulting. And I'm here today because I don't just meet deadlines. I move people to get the vision across the finish line. And I'm excited to do exactly that as a project manager here at XYZ. Then ideally end your story with a question to create a conversation vibe and keep the interviewers engaged. For example, I love turning chaos into order, like I did with that app launch. Where is the most friction in your projects right now, and what are you looking for in a project lead to come in and smooth that out? Let's look at a different example and role. Let's say you're in customer success. Here's how you can apply that formula if you're in a more client-facing, high-tech kind of role. I grew up in a family of small business owners, so I saw firsthand of what it means buying a solution that ends up creating more problems. I got into customer success because I hate seeing people feeling tricked by sales. I wanted to be the person who actually delivers on the promise made on the website. I took that philosophy with me when I started at a software as a service startup that was losing 20% of its enterprise clients every quarter. I was handed our largest account, a client that was literally days away from canceling a 6-figure contract. They were angry, they felt ignored, and they were ready to walk. Instead of apologizing for the software, I went and I spent 3 weeks on site with them to figure out what their actual problem with the software was. I realized that the software itself was fine, but the team was using it in a way that was doubling their workload. I had to pivot from being a customer rep to becoming an internal consultant. I re-engineered their entire workflow and taught them how to use the tool and save 2 hours of manual input every day. The client didn't just stay, but they actually ended up expanding their contract by 20% because I gave them back a lot of their time. That experience became the blueprint of how I cut our department's churn in half. I'm here because I don't just manage accounts. I make sure that your product becomes an indispensable part of your client's success. Now you can again follow up with a short question. I'm curious, when you look at your current enterprise accounts that have churned recently, what have you found to be the main reason for it? You can write down your own version of this 3-step formula for your individual situation and then practice it, give that speech to friends, family, and other people, and come prepared to that next interview to truly stand out. When you use this formula, you're not only answering a question and telling a great story, building trust and empathy and keeping the interviewer engaged, but you're also showing the interviewer that you have a clear sense of purpose, the grit to handle a crisis, and a proven system for delivering results. In this job market in 2026, everyone has the right keywords on their resume, everyone has the degrees and the qualifications. But very few people can tell a story that can make the interviewer feel like they already know what it's like working with you. Stop being a list with names and titles and start being the hero who solves problems. Use this approach and walk into your next interview knowing that the first 120 seconds of tell me about yourself belong to you. Now, let me know what you think about it in the comments, subscribe for more content like this, and thanks for watching.